Good morning, St. Francis. Good morning, people of God. It is Monday, the 17th day of June, 2024. It is Monday of the 11th week of the year, the 11th week in Ordinary Time. And before the heat dome comes to rise over the East Coast, I'm here in Connecticut, where it isn't so bad now, but it will be getting bad towards the middle of the week, as I'm sure that it is already bad in Carolina. But we will see what happens. Hopefully it will not last as long as other heat domes have lasted for these past couple of years. Are looking into climate change and what that means for us is perhaps once again more important than ever for us to pay attention to what is happening to Mother Earth and to this creation that God has given to us. So on this Monday of the 11th week of the year, the 11th week in Ordinary Time, a terrible, awful story from the Book of Kings. So back to the Book of Kings. Again, Elijah has moved on. Elisha has now taken over as the prophet in Israel. And again, this is the kingdom of Israel. The kingdom of Israel, the kingdom of David and Solomon has been divided. And again, we looked at that last year, but it's been divided into Israel and into Judah. And so Book of Kings first looks at the kingdom of Israel, which will fall eventually to the Assyrian army and the Assyrian Empire, and be blotted out of history forever. No one ever knows what ever happened to the people who, the tribes of Israel that were the part of the kingdom of Israel, because they were taken off into slavery, into exile, and never seen or heard from again. But in the meantime, terrible, awful kings are also the problem why Israel goes so bad. It's not because God destroys it, because God punishes it, because God wants it wiped from the face of the earth. Israel has its consequences because it refuses to listen to God, and unfortunately then God allows Israel to go its own way, which is unfortunately into a way of destruction. And so there are many characters in the kingdom of Israel that the Book of Kings chronicles, and today we hear Jezebel, again the woman whose name again connotes someone who is conniving, who is nefarious, who is not a good person at all. Unfortunately, it is a name that's often attached to women because Jezebel was the wife of King Ahab. Again, not Ahab the sailor, as in Moby Dick. He gets his name from this biblical king, but Ahab, who again is king of Israel and who wants a vineyard from Naboth, the Jezreelite. Again, another group of people that border the kingdom of Israel. And he wants the vineyard, and Naboth will not give it to him because it belongs to his family. And again, just because Ahab happens to be king doesn't mean he can get what he wants, as unfortunately is often the case with those who are in royalty. They feel so that kings can take. And that was David's problem. Again, when he puts Uriah the Hittite in front of the battle so he can have Bathsheba, Uriah's wife, kings take, because that is in their nature always. Christ is a king who gives, which is why, again, he redefines kingship, what it means to be a leader. But Ahab doesn't realize that, or Ahab forgets that. And Ahab doesn't want to concern himself with that. He wants the garden, he wants the vineyard as part of his garden that belongs to Naboth. And basically Naboth refuses, and Jezebel basically says, I will take care of this. And basically she does, by bringing up Trump charges against Naboth, and he is stoned to death, and the vineyard now becomes Ahab's. What will happen now, because Ahab allowed his wife, and Jezebel allowed herself to use such horrible means to take something from someone else? Again, another sign that, again, when Israel wanted an earthly king and did not want God as their king, this is what results. This is what happens. And so, again, for those of us who believe, there's always the question, yes, we have temporary rulers who come into this world and into our communities, our societies, our nations, and whatever they are, but they are temporary, always. And again, when we tend to think of them as saviors, we tend to think of them as people who are going to make everything better and make no wrongs or anything else like that. We are fools, and we fool ourselves in a terrible and disastrous way. Again, if we are going to be believers, there is only one who rules over us, and that is God. But because we cannot see and touch God in the way we can see and touch each other, we often don't give that enough credit and take it for granted in some ways, or don't give it any concern whatsoever. And yet we see what disastrous things can happen when we forget our connectedness to God and to God's guidance and leadership in our lives. In the Gospel of Matthew, we have the same kind of thing where Jesus in Matthew's gospel basically says, you've heard it said, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. And many times that is how civil government and civil law seems to work at times. If you take something from somebody else, something will be taken from you. And that idea of vengeance, the idea of revenge. If you hurt me, I'm going to hurt you back. And if you're going to hurt me more, I'm going to hurt you even more. And back and forth and back and forth. That only breeds disaster. It doesn't solve anything. It doesn't resolve anything. It doesn't make anything better. Although we keep thinking and telling ourselves it does. And we see, again, where this world has run into no place that is good and no place that is wonderful and beautiful, because we have that kind of mentality in our lives. Well, Jesus says, again, that's a ridiculous way to approach things, although it was part of the Mosaic law. Again, Jesus again redefines this and basically says it's not about taking and taking, it's about giving and giving. So if somebody wants to go for you, pressures you into service for 1 hour, stay for 2 hours. If somebody travels with you, makes you travel with them for 1 mile, stay for 2 miles. If somebody wants your cloak, give them your shirt as well. Again, the idea of giving and giving and giving. To be surprising, again, to those who want to take from us, and not basically to say, you can only have this, or I'm going to fight you for that, but to give even more. Society and culture would think that is ridiculous and stupid, it is foolish, it is absurd to give, even more than what it is we're being asked to give. And yet Jesus says, try it and see what happens. That will befuddle those who are trying to take things from you because of your graciousness, because of your generosity, because of your ability to give. Life can be different. A blessed day, St. Francis and people of God. May the Lord give you his peace.